My name is Ryan, and I've got some video to share. An angel told me every person that's born is a blessing. And people are born in countries relative. We all lived before, pretty much, is what he said. And all people lived before. And that's why we have certain inclinations and moral ideas and hobbies and favorite colors or cultural practices. He told me that all the people in the world, these people, all of them, were one family once in heaven. But when they're born here on earth, they're separated into territories and cultural regions that were relative to their prior birth. It's relative to their prior birth. So, it's serious. Like, he told me a lot of things, but I believe that it's true. You know, some people wonder, why was I born in a country of freedom? Or, like for me, I was born in America, and I knew that America was entrusted with good roadways, good plumbing, good electricity, good government, good educational systems, educational boards, and there's a lot of blessings in America for the people. But I said, there's a lot of the people from different countries, like Europe, they're white Caucasian too, like England, Ireland, Scotland, Germany, but people were born into the territories that they were born into because it was all relative to their prior birth. And there's certain, there's a whole thing here. I mean, everyone was pre-known and born here with the identity and placement relative to their decisions. Here's the thing. He told me, listen, weather patterns are a sign of God's emotions. And where it's greenest on the earth is where God's heart is happiest. And he told me, if you look at I was thinking about it, and I said, well, look at the countries that are green. I said, that's South America, where they practice Catholicism. That's Asia, they practice Buddhism. That's India, they practice Hinduism. That's America, they practice Christianity and Catholicism. But they also practice, like, Satanism and witchcraft in America. And we have a desert in America. And we have a few desert regions. We have a little bit of everything in America. And we've got volcanoes. We have deserts. We have forests. We have some of the tallest trees on earth. We have 3 coastal lines. We have 2 fault lines. One on the west coast and one in the Midwest. That's where an earthquake takes place, and if the fault line has to do with the effect and impact of the earthquake and what could be handled on the surface. There's a lot of things, but he also told me, the animal creation and the climates people are living in has to do. There's a philosophical wisdom and insight here that all the animals and insects and reptiles that are living in these territories, America, South America, Africa, the Middle East, Asia, India, all the territories on Earth, they're all relative to the climatic. They can all handle. The wildlife creations are relative to the type of people living in the territory. So, like I know in America we have grizzly bears and coyotes, and we have wolves and rattlesnakes and copperhead snakes and coral snake occasionally, different types of rattlesnakes, black widow spiders, brown recluse spiders, tarantulas, and we have 3 coastal lines, but and there's wildlife there, but South America, they have anacondas and piranhas. In India, they have pythons and tigers. And in the Middle East, they have several poisonous snakes. Anyways, the wildlife living with the people and the territories the people are occupying is relative to the deadliness of the people living in the territory. He told me that weather patterns are a sign of a creator's emotions, and where it's greenest on the earth is where God's heart is happiest, the creator's heart is happiest. And he told me that people were born in territories. It wasn't racism. It wasn't hate, because every life that's born is a blessing and a miracle. But it had to enter this life in a birth and region relative to where it left the last life. And that we had trustworthiness endowments as people when we were all born, all over the earth. And where we were entrusted, where we left off the last life, we had to be born in territories today that were relevant to our trustworthiness. For getting into the spiritual aspect of it, skin and hair color has to do with where the spirit was born from. And your eye color has to do with where your soul was born from. And some say, I don't believe you. Well, I say, get used to it. Get used to it, because that's the truth. And there's practices like in Africa today. They practice cannibalism. There's other things, and they also have deserts, and and there's a suffering people there. There's AIDS. There's a lot of diseases and things, and all the people took part in these actions that okayed it. There's things going on everywhere. But what I found out was and the conclusion of it all, it's not racism. I mean, he told me the skin and hair color has to do with where your spirit was born from, and your eye color has to do with where your soul was born from. And the fact is, like some say, why was I not born in this freedom over there? Why was I born like this or whatever? Well, it all had to do with where you left off in the last living. And your moral conception, your hobbies, your educational ideas. It's all, all the gifts that you have in your person, like blessings, like natural understandings, inclinations, morals, religious ideas. That's where you were all that's where everyone was trustworthy with. That's where everyone was trustworthy with in the last life. And that's the truth. And the angel said that if you look at the white person was the educator, and it was entrusted with the education, law, and government. And some would hear that and say, Adolf Hitler was a racist and he burned Bibles. And he, all these things. Well, if you look at what happened with Adolf Hitler, there was other countries that stood in, like America came in and said, we're going to fight this guy. This is nuts. And,